The Indian mountains had always held a mystique for me, a promise of untouched wilderness and breathtaking beauty. So, when my friends and I decided to go camping in the heart of those majestic peaks, I was filled with excitement and a sense of adventure. Little did I know that our camping trip would unravel into a chilling nightmare. We arrived at the base of the mountains, our backpacks heavy with gear and our spirits high. The air was crisp, and the scent of pine surrounded us as we began our ascent. The trail wound its way through dense forests and rocky terrain, leading us deeper into the heart of nature's splendor. As we set up our campsite, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow on the surrounding peaks. The crackling campfire provided warmth and a sense of comfort against the encroaching darkness. We laughed, shared stories, and reveled in the tranquility of the mountains. But as the night deepened, an unsettling feeling settled over us. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it an eerie hush that seemed to silence even the nocturnal creatures. My friend Anuj shivered, glancing around nervously. "Doesn't it feel too quiet?" I nodded, the unease slowly seeping into my own bones. "It's probably just the wind, Anuj. These mountains have their own way of making sound seem distant." We laughed off our unease, attributing it to overactive imaginations. But then, a distant howl echoed through the night, a haunting cry that sent a chill down our spines. Our laughter died down as we exchanged uneasy glances. "It's probably just a wolf or something," Ritu said, though her voice quivered. We huddled closer to the campfire, the flames casting eerie shadows on the trees around us. The wind seemed to carry whispers, as if the mountains themselves held secrets that were being shared among the trees. The fire crackled and spat, its light flickering against the encroaching darkness. Hours passed, and we tried to distract ourselves with ghost stories and games, attempting to brush off the mounting tension. But the wind persisted, carrying with it a mournful wail that seemed to echo from the peaks above. "It's getting late," I said, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. "Maybe we should turn in for the night." Reluctantly, we retreated to our tents, hoping that sleep would ease our unease. But the night held no respite. As I lay in my sleeping bag, I heard soft footsteps outside the tent, the rustling of leaves against fabric. "Did you hear that?" Ritu's voice quivered from the neighboring tent. I held my breath, straining my ears to listen. The footsteps grew fainter, and then there was nothing. "It's probably just an animal," I whispered back, though my own fear was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The night stretched on, a seemingly endless abyss of darkness and quiet unease. Just as I felt myself drifting into a restless sleep, a chilling sound filled the air, the unmistakable cries of a woman. They were sorrowful, haunting, and carried a weight of grief that chilled me to the bone. Ritu's tent rustled, and her terrified voice cut through the night. "Did you hear that?" It sounded like a woman crying. I unzipped my tent and peered out, my heart pounding. The moon cast a pale glow over the campsite, revealing the huddled forms of my friends, their faces pale and fearful. "What's happening?" Anuj's voice trembled. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely audible over the mounting fear. The cries continued, growing louder and more anguished. They seemed to come from all directions, surrounding us like a chorus of torment. We huddled closer together, our fear uniting us in a desperate attempt to ward off the unknown. And then, the cries ceased. The silence that followed was heavy and suffocating, as if the very mountain held its breath. The wind picked up again, but this time it carried with it a whisper, a single, chilling word that seemed to echo in our minds: "Leave." We wasted no time. With trembling hands, we packed up our belongings, our movements frantic and panicked. The campfire, once a source of warmth and camaraderie, was now reduced to smoldering embers. As we descended the mountain, the wind no longer carried the mournful cries. Instead, it seemed to carry with it a sense of relief, as if the mountain itself was letting us go. Our steps were hurried, our gazes fixed on the path ahead, never daring to look back. When we finally reached the base of the mountain, the sun was beginning to rise, casting a golden glow on the landscape. Our breaths came in ragged gasps, and a heavy weight of unease still clung to us. "We need to go back," Ritu's voice was determined, her fear giving way to anger. "We need to find out what happened up there." But the terror of that night was still fresh in our minds, the memory of the cries and the whispers too haunting to face again. We shook our heads, a silent agreement passing between us. As we left the mountains behind, I couldn't help but wonder about the stories these peaks held, the secrets they whispered in the wind. Our camping trip had turned into a chilling encounter with the unknown, a reminder that even in the most beautiful and serene places, darkness and mystery can lurk just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to venture too far into the shadows.